The U.S. military is now facing a new threat. It's not North Korea, it is actually the U.S. diet.
The single biggest disqualifier is obesity.
Wait, we're talking about young people.
Right, youth obesity.
25% of all potential recruits are turned away because of their weight.
At this point in time, we can't field an army because they are, quote, too fat to fight. That's not my words, that's the U.S. Army's words.
A few months ago, the Army missed its recruitment goals for the first time in 13 years. We've gotten to a point where we're too fat to defend ourselves.
Captain Brian Gaudette is an Apache helicopter pilot, an entrepreneur, and a living example of why the U.S. dietary guidelines matter.
Flying Apache helicopters is probably one of the most fun things on the planet, but it's also very high stakes. You need all of your faculties to stay safe.
On high-stakes missions, often on the other side of the world, Brian was confined to Army food, a diet dictated by the dietary guidelines.
I always had sandwiches for lunch, lots of noodle-based dishes, lots of rice-based dishes. I was running about 3 or 4 times a week, between 3 and 5 miles, but the weight was still coming on. One day I was in the cockpit and I put my head down and it felt like the world was moving, like the aircraft was moving. I looked up really quick and then I put my head down again and I felt it again. And so I kind of had to, raise my hand and say, hey, we have a problem here.
Brian knew he was sick, but he didn't know why. He was grounded from flying.
For the next 8 months, I went to every specialist.
Do you have a brain tumor? Is it an inner ear thing? Is there a cardiac issue? Is there a neurological issue?
And they said, Brian, sometimes stress does weird stuff to the body, and handed me a card for mental health.
Not one medical specialist asked Brian about his nutrition.
And they were just like, sorry, that's about all we can do for you. So there was a turning point where it was like, okay, well, we've got to figure this out on our own.
Brian decided to try an elimination diet, and he cut out all grains and sugar.
For really just efficiency and for taste, I made these giant batches of bone broth, vegetable, and meat soups. Amen. And I just ate them pretty much every day. And that's where sort of the nickname Captain Soup came from. In about 6 weeks, I got my brain back. I got my energy back. I lost about 25 pounds.
I started to see my husband come back. I started to see my children's father come back. It's miraculous to me what just food can do.
Just by changing what he ate, Brian's health problems resolved. He no longer takes any medication. He's back to his high school weight, and the Army has reinstated his flight status. And now he's sharing his recipe for health with the world.
Now we make just super clean keto soups, and we ship them frozen all over the country.
These days, when Brian goes on deployment, he ships ahead cases of soup. He no longer relies on the Army food that made him so sick.
When my son was born, I was really sick. And I look back at photos from that time and I barely remember anything about that year because I was so out of it. Sorry. And when you don't have energy and you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. I have my brain back, I have my energy back, and I can show up and be there for my kids and for my wife like I want to be.
Today, less than 20% of medical schools require nutrition training for physicians. That's slowly changing, but a widespread lack of nutrition knowledge means many physicians misunderstand the root causes of chronic and metabolic diseases, which are often driven by diet.
When a physician preaches low fat and a physician preaches reducing calories and they try that themselves, it doesn't take long for some of them to realize this isn't working for me. Maybe it's not working for my patients either.
Allie, How are you doing?
Physicians are not immune to obesity. Plenty of them struggle with their own health challenges.
Until 2 years ago, I was trying to do the American Diabetes Association diet, the American Heart Association, trying to eat a low-fat diet, eating small meals throughout the day, and I'm gaining weight.
Up 2, up 3.
I was working out 6 days a week because I would say, I gotta work out. If I wanna lose weight, I wanna be an example to my patients. You're exercising, but like they say, you can't outrun your fork.
So I had a huge
Like many docs,
breakdown.
Brian Lenskis was trained in the low-fat paradigm, and that's what he practiced with his patients for decades. But the struggle with his own weight was getting out of control.
Yeah, at that point, I was around 260 pounds. And I was, at that time also, I was pre-diabetic. Clearly what I was doing wasn't working. I was following the government guidelines, and I was getting sicker and sicker. And it's not working for me. Well, were my patients not listening to me, or was I giving them bad advice? And it turns out we were giving bad advice.
Honey, I got a mixture of chicken, Italian seasoned sausage, and like a spicy pork.
So when I cut carbohydrates, the interesting thing for me, if I had eggs for breakfast, for instance, my 10 o'clock snack that I was gonna have, I wasn't hungry and I would skip right through it.
I like the grease on my fingers.
Super good.
Within the first 6 months, I was down about 28 pounds, 30 pounds. I was putting on muscle mass and I was feeling really good. My energy, my mental clarity, my focus, my fatigue levels, all those things got better. I was like, wow, pretty interesting. How many guys have lost like 10 pounds or more doing low carb or keto?
And he's been a fantastic ambassador for low carb lifestyle because he's seen it personally, and now he's seen it with hundreds of his patients.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, thanks.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
How's things? In all my years of practice, I never saw anyone cured of diabetes by going on a low-fat diet. Never, not one time. No one came off insulin.
Since switching his practice to a low-carb, ketogenic approach, nearly a dozen of Brian's patients have reversed their type 2 diabetes and come off insulin altogether.
Man, I was just looking at your numbers and it's like, I think if anyone I've ever seen, you've come off insulin faster than anyone.
I feel brand new. Brand new, brand new. So I'm sticking with the diet.
In 3 months, I went from insulin 5 times a day to no insulin and was able to maintain normal blood sugars.
I don't remember if Dr. Lenskis suggested keto specifically for the weight loss or if it wasn't for the other issues that I had. I started it, and I do love butter, and I do love cream, and I do love bacon. So, you know, it sounded really pretty good to me.
Great, it's incredible.
I ate less, and what I ate, I enjoyed more.
Since last March, a year ago, I've lost between 50 and 60 pounds, but I've gained a lot of strength, I've gained a lot of muscle as well.
So I've lost over 200 pounds.
It's just mind-boggling. He hadn't taken any patients off insulin ever in his entire career. And in 5 months, he got 11 patients off insulin completely. How can you not acknowledge that?
You've done incredible things. I mean, just 2 years ago, you were on insulin 5 times a day, huge doses. And you asked me, can I come off this insulin? I'm gaining weight, I'm tired, I'm fatigued all the time. And now seeing you where you're at now, and it's pretty remarkable what you've accomplished, you know, just by making some lifestyle changes. They're empowered now to get themselves off insulin. So now they're seeing it. Now my patients are telling their patients, and they're going to them saying, hey, how come this person came off insulin? I thought it couldn't happen. It can happen. It does happen, right? And we're excited about that. I don't know anyone else who's lost as much weight as you have. Even with gastric bypass surgery, I've never seen it. You know, the fact you're coming down off your diabetes medicines, you're off them all now. Your blood pressure came down. All these things are getting better, and we're just slowly getting you off medications. You are making progress, and you're making a ton of progress, more than anyone that I've ever seen.
The shift that he saw in his patients, being able to actually remove medications and make them healthier at the same time, was just tremendous. And it all started with his own personal journey.
Maybe eventually the government will come around.
Maybe, possibly so. If not, it's your health, right? We could do it as individuals, and when people are seeing people have benefits, they're going to want to go into that lifestyle. And what you're doing and what we're seeing day after day, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for encouraging me too.
Oh no, you're wonderful. You are absolutely the best.
You're awesome.